Thank you for taking care of that. Which means that I know the Sage time and attendance solution. You have any questions on if the solution can do this, if the solution can do that, can it let me know when an employee does this. Just you point in my direction. I'm the guru here. I'm going to know that, and we're going to go ahead and answer that question for you. So I do mention questions. If you want to go ahead and put your questions in the chat window, we'll answer all the questions at the end. So as you come up with them, you don't want to forget them, just go ahead and put them in the chat window, and we'll scroll through that and answer those at the end. All right. Today we are just going to be going through a couple quick slideshows. Like I said, this is the first slide. We'll get to a couple others just to overview a couple things. Then we'll get into the software and showing you what it can see and do, and how it can maybe solve some of your prospects or clients' problems that they have. All right. So the slideshow here that we're going to show is the data flow diagram. This is a very important slideshow to show. I can sit on this slide for maybe, if you really wanted for me to talk the full hour about this, I could. That's how important the interfacing is. So the interfacing is a great key point that we have with Sage time and attendance. I'm going to start on the left-hand side here. I have in my screen, my PowerPoint slide, just Sage HRMS listed. If we wanted to put Abra Suite in the HR side, we could. And then on the payroll side, there are more than just HRMS payrolls that we integrate with. If you need a full list of that, just let us know. We can give you a list of what we integrate with. But sticking with the HRMS side, this is where we could pull in all that HR data through our interface. There's no duplicate keying is the main process here, where we put someone in HR and then we have to go to our time and attendance software, put the employee in there, so then they can talk to each other. We actually get all that information right from HR through our HR interface. We're dealing with new hires, terminations, all that information can be coded, can interface on over into the time and attendance module, and we can have it right there. We can even have, with new hires, when they go ahead and get brought into the system, bring in all the information necessary for them to be able to punch. So you can actually hire someone in HR, interface over, and they can begin punching in and out without anything done in the time and attendance system. So that is an important interface to talk about. After that, we get to our data collection. So we have our new hires and all our employees in the system. Then how are they going to collect their punches? And we have multiple ways to collect that information. You can always mix and match. So if you wanted people to do web punch as well as punch on a biometric clock, perfectly okay. In the morning I come by a door that has a clock, but when I leave in the afternoon, my computer's ready up and running, I punch out on my web. So every morning I punch in on a clock, punch out on a web, perfectly okay. Other than the biometric clock, we also have swipe or prox readers. So if people want to have proxies, so they go ahead and just put that in front of the clock. It'll bring up then if you can punch in or out, and we can have those options available as well. We have a timesheet option. So if you have off-site employees or people that travel, they're able to put their information either after the fact. If they want to put it in a timesheet, the time they came in and left, they could. They can also even put in their total hours. I worked 8 hours today, I worked 7 hours today. We can do that with a timesheet option. What's really nice about the timesheet option also gives you access to go ahead and pick maybe your department that you worked at, or if you're off-site again, the site or location you worked at. All that information can be in the timesheet, and when I'm putting in my hours, I can choose where I was. The same works for the hardware clock and the web punch, except this is more real time. As I'm coming in for the day, I'm going to say which location I'm at or what department or job I'm working at. Another option for off-site employees or people that don't have access to internet is to use our telephone service, where you can call in your punches. So you are able to call in your punches using lines, and then there can be restrictions put on that, as well as GPS tracking if we needed it. With our web clock, we also have a mobile punch, where they could just go ahead and bring up their phone, iPad, anything like that. They can bring up the web clock and punch on. And we also have a mobile crew punch, which we see mainly for construction companies where they're able to go ahead and punch in a certain crew that's working today. So I normally supervise 10 employees, but I only need 5 a day. I'm going to go ahead and, off-site, punch them all in at the same time. I'll pick the 5 that are coming in today, and I'll punch them in at the same time. Once that data is collected, we then upload at the end of the pay period all that information into payroll. So we're going to upload the calculated hours, our benefit hours, if people took PTO or vacation. And then any travel time that we have. Okay. So that information then all would be loaded up into Sage HRMS payroll. Could be, again, any other list of payrolls that we do integrate with. And again, if you need that list, just let us know. So this really is showing the whole integration, how the time and attendance is that bridge between HR and payroll, where we're able to bring in all the information, collect data, and then bridge it right back into payroll. No manual entry, no duplicate entry. Really, that's a great focus to help people where they're doing a lot of things manually. All right, without further ado here, I'm going to share out my internet browser so we can get right into the software. Okay. Now I'm at the login screen for the software. A couple things about the software. It is web-based, so you can get to it as long as you have an internet connection and a web browser. You can go ahead and get to the time and attendance login page as well as the web clock. With the login and the web clock, they do have separate restrictions. If you wanted to restrict by IP, you can. So we want employees to be able to log in from home so they can do their time off requests, but we don't want them to be able to punch in from home. So they're sitting on their couch, oh, I'm going to punch in, take a shower, and then go to work. We can go ahead and set restrictions so they can't punch, but they can still log in and make their requests from home. And if we don't want them to do either, we can still set a restriction for both, where they can't log in or punch from home. We also can hook into email servers, so that way we can send out emails via the system. And the most popular thing we see emailed out are those time off requests. When an employee makes a time off request, the supervisor wants to know right away. They get an email, they can review that information in the email, and even approve or decline the request right from that email. So it makes it really easy for the supervisors to see those as soon as they're made by the employee, as well as take care of them. Okay. How I structure this is I log in as the employee and show employee self-service first. So we'll go in as employee, and Dave is our employee. We'll start with him, and then we'll go into a manager, what they can do on a daily procedure and how it can make their lives easier, and then we'll go into a payroll ad. Before we log in as Dave, we are going to go ahead and look at that web punch, show you how the web punch could work. If you're coming from manual time cards or another system, the web punch is going to look very similar. So you have your employee, they put in their username and password. They can put a comment in with the punch, maybe why they're coming late. I had a flat tire, or there was a snowstorm today. That's why I'm coming in late. So the comment box can be very useful. And then they're able to use their punch. So I came in. I'm going to go ahead and punch in. And then you're going to see you could do an out. You can do punch for lunch. We can add breaks if people want to track breaks. You can add those punches here as well. And then the important one on the end here is going to be the transfer. If employees need to allocate time towards certain jobs, departments, locations, this transfer button is going to allow them to do that. So I'm going to say, you know what, it's 12:10 p.m. I'm going to move over and change my job. I'm not going to be in accounting anymore. I'm going to go to payroll. I'm going to do some payroll since today's payroll day. I'm going to go ahead and help out with them, change my job, and then I can complete. This can be all configured. If we want only to show job and not have them change departments, budgets, account numbers, anything like like that, we can go ahead and control it. So this job number there is there, as well as parent-child. If I only see finance, I should only be able to pick accounting, accounting aid, and payroll, so they don't have a list of things they don't need to transfer to. Okay. That's one way Dave can punch from the login screen. We also are going to see if you want to set up kiosks. So instead of having a hardware clock, we're going to set an iPad or a laptop in front of the doors where people come in. We can go ahead and have this clock web page brought up. So as people punch, it allows the next person to come in and punch right away. I'm going to go ahead and log in as Dave then and start with the employee self-service. When employees have access to computers, the main items they're going to be doing in the system is going to be doing those time-off requests, as well as missing punch requests. What the system does is make it very helpful for the supervisors, and it allows the employees to be more proactive with their punches. Employees can come in and view their punches and see, Dave sees on the 10th here, I didn't punch in from lunch on that day, I forgot to. An employee can be proactive in the system, send a request to their supervisor for that. So I can come in here, make a time off or make a punch request, put in when I came back in from lunch, and then send that to my supervisor. What this cuts down on is the supervisor seeing that there's a missing punch, getting an alert for it, going back to the employee and saying, Dave, you didn't punch in from lunch on the 10th. What time did you come back in? And he's like, oh, what day was the 10th? Oh, that was Monday. Okay, let's see. Oh, I had 2 burgers that day and also some donuts, so I came in a little late. It was 1:20 p.m. So it's really cutting back on that time frame of the supervisor going back to the employee for the time that they came back in from lunch or whatever punch they missed. So that is very useful and very time-saving. Same with the time off requests. We make this very easy for employees to come in via the UI, go to requests, do a new request, and a time off request. Once they come here, they're going to have access to who they're going to send the request to. They're going to have access to the time off calendar to view when they have time off to make sure they're not doing it twice, to view maybe when their department has time off so they can see, okay, I know Kevin has this week off already. I have to be here. I can't request that week off. And then what they do is they have the plus button to get the interactive calendar where I can go ahead and pick the days I want. So we can put the daily amount of hours, the pay type we want. This is going to be vacation. And then we have the interactive calendar. Let's take some time off in June. Sounds like a good time to take some vacation. Let's just do 25th and 26th. If you wanted to click and drag the whole week, they'd be able to do that. We're just going to pick the 2 days. Once they're added here, you're going to see that the employees then get to see what their balance is. This is another useful thing that the system does for them. Instead of calling up HR and asking what my balance is before I come here, okay, my balance I'm at, and we can scroll over this, I'm at 36 hours right now. So I know I can ask these 2 days off and not be below that, or waiting for my pay stub to see my balance. What they can do is come into the system, and while they're making a request to see their balance, they can also log into the system and view their balance at any time. And we'll get to showing where that is here in a little bit. So it cuts down on them, bothering HR for it or waiting for their paycheck to see the balance. So they're able to go ahead and put a comment in there. Looks like Dave is going to go to the beach. Sounds like a lovely thing to do in June. So he's going to go ahead and take a long weekend at the beach. If you needed to make this a half day or change the pay type, if we needed to make some vacation, some unpaid, we could do that. And if we need to do a half day, we can go ahead and update the hours as well. Once I submit this request, it is going to do an in-system message to my supervisor and we can have it email out and send to my supervisor that way as well. We're also going to see Dave when he submitted it. So he sent it at 4/22 at 12:15. You're going to see when the effective dates are. You see 6/25 plus 1, which means plus another day. And you're going to see the status of it. Dave can log in and view at any time the status of his request. If we have the email functionality turned on, as soon as it's approved or declined by the supervisor, it'll also send Dave an email letting him know that it's been approved or declined. Dave can actually come into the request if he knows he picked the wrong 2 weekends. So he goes back home and he's like, oh yeah, I requested the 25th and 26th. And then his spouse says, no, that's the wrong weekend. We were doing the weekend before that. He can come in here, withdraw that request before the supervisor takes care of it, and then resubmit it. Once the request is approved by his supervisor, he can come in here and do the decline request, which sends another request to the supervisor to remove those hours. So it does have to be approved by the supervisor to remove those hours. What this is really helping out on is cutting down on the paperwork or loss of paper when you have paper time off requests sent back and forth. This way you can easily track them, and the supervisors can have them all in one place and see them and take care of requests easily. The last thing we have for the employee then is to view their balance, and where they can view their balance is under the accrual summary page. So we can see under accrual summary here, we get to see the PTO, and we get to see what my balance currently is in the system. We also get to see the pending taken. If we want to see how many hours are taken, we can see that, and see that actually reflects in my balance. If I have time off around Thanksgiving already approved and add on my time cards, that's going to actually show in my balance because it's actually there. And it's going to be in the November then. Next up, we have the supervisors and what they can see and do on a daily basis. As a supervisor, we're going to see it through the interface. My drop-down list automatically be all my direct reports. So as those change inside the HR, it's going to go ahead and interface over and update my drop-down list. So when Teresa comes into the system, she's going to see who she needs to see. She's also going to have access right on the left-hand side to her action items. We try to tell supervisors you need to go into the system, take care of your action items, and log out. So manage by exception. You don't need to be in the system all day. You just need to come in maybe once a day, review what alerts you have, review what requests you have, take care of them, and log out. Alerts are going to be any exception on a time card, and this can be controlled by the prospect. So the client can say, I want an alert after 10 minutes. That's going to be laid in. I want it after 30 minutes. So that can all be controlled. And then once those alerts happen, you're going to have them show on your alert screen. This is any exception on a time card, something that we weren't expecting happen. They missed a punch. Well, they weren't even supposed to miss a punch. Approaching premium, they're getting close to overtime. Normally this employee only works 30 hours a week. And we see that they worked 40. So Ronald's expected to work 30, he worked 40, so we're going to get an alert on that. Any exception like that can be sent to our supervisors, and then they can come in here and take care of them. They're meant to be deleted as we get them. I go ahead and fix the missing punch, it's going to be removed. I go ahead and look and see that Nick was laid in. I'm going to delete that once I look at it and take care of it. And the reason why we're going to do that is really just to clean up our alert messaging. So when we log in, it'll be 0. When we log out, it'll be 0. When we log back in, we can see anything new. And the reason we can do that is because we're going to house all the history in our attendance module. So our attendance is going to house all those laid-ins if we want to look back and see that Dave was laid in 4 times last week, and then he was laid in 3 times this week. We can track that with the attendance. The attendance also is very useful for tracking point policies. If we have prospects with point policies where we want to use the same measuring stick for all our employees, If you're late over an hour, that's going to be 1 point for you. Once you get to 3 points, you're going to get a written message, or a verbal message. Once you get to 5, you get a written. Once you get to 10, then you have to sit down and have a meeting with your supervisor, etc. Those are what we can use point policies in the system for, and we can easily track that. Okay. We also put it in a calendar view. The calendar view really helps show you, as far as trends go, what's happening. If we want to see when Dave comes late in, if we want to see he's coming late in every Monday, we're going to be able to see that in the time and attendance system easily with the attendance calendar. Managers also have to take care of requests in the system. So when they come into the system, they go ahead and look at requests. You're going to see I have 7 open as Terry. I come in here under employee requests and see that Dave has time off requests. So we can see when Dave submitted it, the effective date, and +1 again means you've got 1 other day there. So if I didn't take care of this when I got the email, I can come into the system to see more detail. I can see the time off calendar then, if I wanted to see that. So I can see that Kevin has these days off as well, so I know I have to decline this for Dave. I can see what his balance is. So his balance is going to be 20 hours after this. That's okay. And I can go ahead and put a response in if I need to. And I can go ahead and approve it. Once we approve it, a couple things are going to happen in the system. First of all, it's going to automatically add those hours to his time card. So now in June, he's going to have those hours there automatically. It's going to go ahead and update his balance. So under accrual summary, we're going to see his balance now be at 20 and see the pending taken go up. And the third thing it's going to do is actually add a scheduled deviation for him for that day. That way, when he doesn't punch on that day, we're not going to get an absent alert for him. So we can see under the employee schedule here on the 10th that happened for him, and you can see it just grades out the day so we don't get an absent alert. This is my transition then into scheduling. For the scheduling piece inside the time and attendance system, the schedules are fairly static, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. We can go ahead and take care of that by adding schedules in the system and assigning employees to that. Supervisors can come in the system, view that schedule. They can view a coverage view if they're worried about people covering certain shifts. So we have to have 3 people covering our 7 a.m. shift, or at least have 10 people on at that time. We can use the coverage view to double check that. And then we have the team schedule where we can control when people work. So if we have Dave maybe coming in late one day because of dentist or doctor's appointment, we don't want to get him a late in when he comes in at 9 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. We can come into the team schedule, launch it, and make those changes for him. So Monday he's coming in at 9 a.m. We want to make sure our alerting is correct. We can come into the team schedule and change that for him. We also see then the time off calendar. We saw under the request we can see that. If we wanted to see it at any time, we can come under the scheduling piece and see that. And you get a list of everyone and when they have time off. If we do run into schedules that change, if you're in the healthcare industry, you don't know what they're going to be, they change daily. We do have an advanced scheduling tool that helps with that, with the employees swapping shifts, dropping shifts, adding shifts, as well as sending text messages. We have our advanced scheduling tool that would go ahead and help with that. If you need an additional demo on the time simplicity, we can help you with that. As a supervisor, I'm coming in the system, taking care of the alerts, took care of my requests. Those are both 0. I can log out of the system. At the end of the pay period then, once the pay period is done, we're going to want to double check time cards as well as take care of our approvals. So when we come to the approvals then, we're going to launch them. And this is going to give us a great overview of everyone's time and broken out by overtime, holiday, time off. And we can control these columns and what we want to show. We can come in here, see Dave has 52 hours, 8 hours of overtime, 4 hours of sick, and he's got a total of 65 hours. We also can see, maybe I don't remember Dave was sick this week. I don't remember Dave being sick this week. We can come to the timesheet section and review those hours. What you're going to see is useful is this pop-up screen. So this pop-up screen actually pops up right in front of my approval widget. And that way I can see his sick on the 10th. If I needed to change that, actually he was sick all day, make it 8 hours, I could save it and then close it, and you're going to see the changes made, and then I can approve his time. We also have approvals in the system. Look for missing punches as well as open requests inside the current pay period. So this ensures that when the supervisors are in here and approving time, that the time is correct before the approval is taken care of. Once the approval is taken care of, it will lock the time cards. So we'll not allow supervisors, employees to make changes. That way when we're running payroll, we don't worry about anyone making changes in the system. So our supervisors went ahead in the system. They got to the end of the pay period, double-checked time cards, looked at approvals. Approvals all got taken care of. The next step is to log in as Kevin, which is our payroll admin, and how would they get payroll processed and out of the system. The first step for them is to double-check the approvals, and we make it easy for them by coming to the approvals and be able to just display the unapproved only, because that's who we only want to see, and launch the approvals just to double check that our supervisors got it taken care of. Maybe a supervisor was on vacation and we forgot to give them a backup. The admin would be able to go ahead and take care of that. We're also going to see you can sort the approvals by supervisor to easily see which supervisor has not done their approvals. When I do this, we can scroll down and see Carlos, and Carlos didn't take care of any of his approvals. We have to talk to Carlos. We gave you a deadline of noon on Monday. Why didn't you go ahead and take care of your approvals? And then we see that he's on vacation, so we can either sign a backup or take care of it ourselves. The next step then is reporting. We want to make sure we know what we're going to send to payroll before we actually do it, and there are many different reports we have in the system to do that. The one I like to show is the payroll-transfer. This is a great, robust report that can show many different things. It can show it broken out by employee. It can show just the totals by pay type, so our overtime, our salary, our regular. It can show it broken out by our org levels or GL codes if we just want to see it broken out by location. A lot of different ways this report can be run. And it gives you totals per each way you run it. If we want a total by employee, that's what I have it set up as right now. You're also going to see it breaks out job numbers. So we can see Victoria here worked at Human Resources, did some auditing, some technical calls, some sales calls. It looks like Victoria can do a little bit of everything. It's pretty impressive that she can do inventory, sales, and audits as well. And even advertising, that's nice. But you see it breaks it out day by day for them. It even can add rates and wages. So if we put rates in the time and attendance system, that can be tracked. And then it's going to total the hours. You're also going to see at the bottom of the page here, it totals the hours for the whole entire report. If your clients know what their total amount of hours they're going to be sending, average each pay period, that's a great way to come down here and see, oh, yep, we're at where we normally send. Oh, no, we're not. Okay, what's going on? And you're able to review the time cards. Reports can even be scheduled. If you don't want to come into the system and run this report every at the end of every pay period, you could schedule this report, since you know you're going to run it anyways. It'll run on the schedule and then email out the results to you. We can do this for admins. We can do this for supervisors and even employees if we want to send certain reports to them. That is a very useful tool as well. The last step then is going to be exporting that payroll. So this is where we create that file. We'll now upload into payroll. And we can do it many different ways. If we need to do it by pay group, so we just want to export the hourly because our salary is automatically being calculated by payroll. If we want to do our hourly and salary but not our temp pay group because we have a temp agency that we hire people through, they need just a report out of the system. They can still track their time in the system, report, and send that to the third party. But you can then choose not to send the temp to payroll then. You can do entire company. So if you just have the entire company you want to send into a file, you can do it that way. And you can also do it by organizational level. If we have multiple companies in one time and attendance system, you can choose for the different EINs to send them out. So this is company A, company B, and company C. We need to separate the time in each file for them. We can send that out that way. Once the file then is uploaded into payroll, they can go about their normal payroll processing. If they notice any changes, they can go ahead and update the changes in payroll. And then they can come back into the time and attendance system and still make those changes here so the histories match. And the reason they can do that is because we haven't ended the pay period yet. So it is up to the client to come into the system and say, we processed payroll, we updated any changes we made there in the time and attendance system, we're ready to then move the pay period forward, rinse and repeat, and start the fun all over again. That is the processing then for the payroll admin, as well as we went through employee self-service where they could make their time off requests, review their punches and time, as well as make punch requests to be more proactive. We reviewed then a supervisor in the system, how they can take care of their alerts and their requests, as well as at the end of the pay period take care of approving time. They're also able to report on time in the system if they wanted to. Then we went into the payroll admin where they need to go ahead and get the payroll file out to payroll, and they could do that by checking approvals, running reports, and then exporting the payroll. Does anyone have any questions on anything I went through? This is the time to answer questions. If not, I would like to thank you for your time this afternoon. I hope this was very helpful in showing what we can do and help your prospects and clients out.